Russians remember Lviv for its iconic Soviet buses. Once the pride of the USSR, the factory now sits idle, though it formerly supplied vehicles across the entire country. The powerful, beautiful, and truly beloved buses would roll out, and the LAZ-699R Tourist always held a very special and unique place among them. Just stop and think for a moment. This was one of the most mass-produced and largest buses in the entire USSR. I mean, Ikarus, Bulgarian, Romanian, what's the difference? They started creating these magnificent long-distance roadliners in 1964 and produced them until 2002. And our mind, the R modification was produced from 1978 to 2002. Although, to be fair, truly serial mass production only began in 1983. The bus body design was nothing revolutionary for the world, and even today, buses are built this way. It uses a wagon-type layout where the power frame is integrated with stiffening ribs, which in turn are covered with metal. The intercity version is one section longer than the city bus. The one we have is from 1988. This specific vintage automobile is a classic and iconic 1988 model year production run, and because of that specific era of automotive design, its most striking and uniquely distinguishing feature, well, if we are being completely honest and looking closely at the details, the most immediately noticeable visual feature is still the prominent and unmistakable presence of a decorative fake radiator grille that serves to define the entire front-end aesthetic and character of the car, which was a common design choice during that specific period of time. If you look at it from the side, the large rear overhang of the bus immediately catches your eye, which we'll talk about a bit later. If you look at it from the side, the large rear overhang of the bus immediately stands out, which we'll get to a bit later. There is also a full-size spare tire hidden securely under the bumper here. There's a driver's door, but later it was completely sealed up and the driver started entering just like everyone else. And probably, like for everyone, that's much simpler. But, as they say, you eventually become quite accustomed to the idea of not entering with delicious pies and cold ice cream cones. There is a very interesting and unique feature located right here. Do you see the specialized factory-installed safety handle equipped with a built-in limiter? It was specifically designed so that when the bus is extremely crowded, absolutely no one accidentally steps out onto the road while the bus is still moving. That particular safety addition came a bit later, but at first it was something for which the local people truly loved and appreciated you. The cabin is the benchmark of intercity comfort, made in the USSR. Yes, the Ikarus was cooler, but today isn't about that. There are 41 seats, with 36 of them arranged like on an airplane, again in the back. The aisle is wide, so you can walk without brushing your backside against the passenger's shoulders. And as for the ceiling height, I am 1.90 meters tall. I am oversized. But back then, the proletariat was significantly shorter. You can easily find your seat as indicated on your ticket. And by the way, it's amazing. All the original passenger seats have been preserved in the bus, just covered with slipcovers. But what if we take them off? Beautiful. Airplane-style seats. Of course, their base is pretty ugly and rough. Looks very crude. But comfort is more important. The backrest is adjustable, the contouring is quite well done, and most importantly, you don't feel cramped. You're not practically bumping your knees against the seat in front of you. For every flushed face, or in my case, frozen red ears, there's a personal air vent and a personal reading light. The only thing is, passengers complained in the summer that the air coming from here was either too warm or hot. You're practically bumping your knees against the seat directly in front of you. For every flushed face, or in my case, frozen red ears, there's a personal air vent and a personal reading light. The only thing is, passengers complained in the summer that the air coming from here was either uncomfortably warm or even excessively hot. They were probably just being a bit picky. Passengers could store their luggage both under the seats and on the overhead shelves. And also, these are the original factory-installed mounting points for the window curtains. Oh, there were curtains once. The sign said ZIL-375Ya8 in a Ukrainian body with a powerful engine sourced from Russia. But it's actually quite unusual. In Russia, they didn't have the necessary engines at first, so they put in one from a Ural here. So it's kind of native. What a tangle of belts there is here. And one of them goes to a separately mounted radiator fan. By the way, in hot weather, this curtain would open, but it didn't help much. A few numbers. Displacement is 6,962 cubic centimeters. Maximum power is 180 horsepower at 3,000 RPM, 200 revolutions per minute. Maximum torque is 465 newton meters at 1,800 revolutions per minute. And of course, it's a V8. The clutch here is single disc. The engine weighs several hundred kilograms, and the gearbox isn't exactly light either. All of this is carried by the rear axle. It's hard to show the rear axle, but I'll try. To give you an idea, everything here is reversed. The engine, the gearbox, the rear axle. It's flipped. The slave, the rear, the leaf spring on the... This vehicle features a progressive suspension system. The stiffness of the progressive suspension changes in direct proportion to the various loads applied. Oscillations are dampened by springs working in tension. To put it more simply and concisely, there are 2 leaf springs, 4 springs, and no shock absorbers. But in the front, there are dependent shock absorbers. The starter is showing signs of being somewhat worn out, so we'll help it with a manual hand-operated crank starter, so to speak. Also done by a lot of experts. This is the main pipe. This is for By the way, do you happen to know why there are 2 mufflers here? That's also something very specific that experienced a lot of experts do. This one here is the main exhaust muffler, and the second one is designed so that all the condensate can drain away from the canister, ensuring the muffler doesn't rust through from the inside. That's actually where the drips come out. There is a rear door on this vehicle, but right now we're heading around to the front. Now it is finally time for me to get behind the wheel. I'm not going to climb into the driver's door, because it honestly reminds me quite a bit of an emergency hatch. Well, it's actually surprisingly and remarkably comfortable to sit here. The seat is already from a LAZ-699R. That makes it feel much more comfortable than before. The steering wheel, mamma mia, it really is from an Ikarus bus after all, but specifically from a 55 Lux. I think this steering wheel alone probably costs more than the whole bus. A shutter runs through the body of the vehicle, and you merge with it in a vibrational ecstasy. All that's required of you is to engage the right gear. Now engage the gear. Now fully engage the gear. Now these are some gear throws. All right, this side. The bus comes to life as the engine starts. Just engage the gear. These are long throws with an inverted gearbox. First, right, down, up, reverse. Wise. A smooth, gentle bus. It starts on hurriedly, signaling a long journey. The vehicle is heavy, fully loaded with people and belongings, the fuel tank full. The LAZ weighs 12 tons. That is a lot, though it might not seem so. You might naturally think it would be quite hard to handle, but it's actually not. Most of the vehicle's weight is concentrated on the rear axle, exactly 8.5 tons. That's the primary reason why these LAZ buses could still run pretty well during heavy snowstorms and on less than ideal asphalt surfaces or rough country roads. Ground clearance is 310 millimeters. Ride smoothness was exemplary. A fuel consumption of 40 liters per 100 kilometers was the norm. The rear axle has planetary gear reducers in the wheel hubs, which distribute torque smoothly. That's why a fully loaded LAZ easily climbed Crimean coast passes. It could brake too. Braking distance from 60 kilometers per hour is 32 meters, which sounds scary. If you hit the maximum 100 kilometers per hour, then what? Simple. Don't accelerate that much. I love it when the brakes actually brake, no matter how funny that sounds. Reliably and predictably, but every bus has its own quirks. It all depends on its condition and how it's been used. I love it when the brakes actually brake, no matter how funny that sounds, reliably and predictably. But every bus has its own quirks. It all depends on its condition and how it's been used. Now, again, with this stick shift, I just wish I could catch the right speed. Something like this. And again, I missed it. Now, yeah, you really have to get used to working with a classic LAZ bus. So as for the braking system, it all depends entirely on the specific condition of the bus and exactly how it's been used over the years. Our particular bus was operated in the city of Anapa. In other words, it never actually saw a harsh winter. And we really want to say thanks to the guys who let us take it out for a spin today. There's a direct link to their channel in the description below. It smells a bit like fried chicken in here. I guess something is definitely burning back there after all. Yeah, it stalled. Ran out of gas. Why? I have no idea. The tank is big. Who knows? So the owner and I started going through all sorts of interesting papers. Here is a loudspeaker for the bus, AGU-10. What else? The operation manual? Seatbelts? For the LAZ bus, which I don't see here. I only see one seatbelt, which for some reason holds two. And this is also a factory solution, comrades. Bus enthusiasts, here's some information for you. Modemio has released an Ikarus, model 250-59. What can I say about it? There's really nothing to say. It's Ikarus. It needs no introduction. The model scale is 1 to 43, painted. You can order one for yourself at... You can easily browse and explore your entire collection by following the specific link provided down in the video description below. These incredible Ikarus models are currently selling out much faster than almost any other popular models we have ever seen. So please don't wait. Place your order right now, or you might unfortunately miss out on this opportunity. Until I actually lift up the heavy tank, you should know that absolutely everything has already been carefully taken out of there, really. Take a long, hard look at all of this incredible accumulation of grime, filth, and deep-seated dirt that is gathered here over time. It is truly everywhere you look, covering every single inch of the surface in a thick, dark layer. We're going to have to deal with this very carefully and methodically if we want to get this place looking completely spotless and brand new once again. Just look at how the dust has settled into every tiny crack and crevice, making the entire area look dull and neglected. It is going to take a lot of hard work, patience, and the right tools to scrub all of this away. What else did people love about the long LAZ buses? For the fact that they have their own autonomous heater installed in the front, and by the way, it runs on diesel. The tank, I think, holds about 20 liters. What does it remind you of? Well, in spirit, probably the one from the Zaporozhets. So in the LAZ-R, it's warmer in winter than in regular city buses. There's also this thing here called, well, just listen. LAZ buses have unique horns. Drivers often lower the mirrors themselves, among other custom modifications. This mid-20th century design remained virtually unchanged until production ended. And here I am on the backseat. As a child, I love this spot. Here, you get bounced around like on an airplane. And only as you get older do you realize how noisy it is here and how much it smells of exhaust fumes. Exhaust fumes, gasoline. That alone could make you feel like flying. But you might ask, were there any significant downsides? Plenty. But the people in Lviv fixed them as the buses were being produced. Noisy, smelly, yet like flying. Initially, there were ample resources and materials available for production, but then the inevitable geopolitical shifts occurred, and the market of independent states declared that these traditional LAZ buses were no longer needed. This sudden change in the economic landscape led to a sharp decline in demand, as newer, foreign alternatives began to flood the local markets, leaving the domestic manufacturing sector behind.